know what? I'm gonna fill a long-standing wish of you viewers before we move this out of the way to get back to the Cefiro. Gotta lubricate the LS Miox door hinge. This is one of those things, man. I just don't really notice it. I don't know how I don't notice it, but I don't notice it. Look at that, boys. No more squeaky door hinge. All right, back to the opening of the video montage. Squeak. Well, it is getting to that time of year again, where those of you who've been watching for a while know what's coming. You're gonna hear me say a lot of times over the next few months that it's a beautiful day in Florida. Today's borderline. It's a little toasty right now, but it has cooled down so much, and this is just the best time of year to live in Florida because in summer it rains all the time and it's hot. Winter we get this kind of deal and good weather. So anyway, just brace yourselves for the beautiful day in Florida segments in every video. So what we're doing today is diving back into the K-swap Cefiro build. Super exciting. We got a lot of the engine parts in. We've got more coming over the next day or two. We got the car stripped down for the most part, you know, engine bay stripped down, all of that stuff. Anyway, it's enough jibber jabber to start this off. It's time to get into some work. We're gonna start tearing into the engine. We got engine things to do, chassis things to do. We've got angle stuff and we got more stuff coming. So plenty of work on the chopping block. Let's dive in. Everything looks pretty good in here. Basically what we need to do is set this thing at top dead center, and then we'll be able to take the chain off and kind of keep everything in the correct orientation while we pull the oil pump chain off. So this is the oil pump. It's an odd setup. I'm used to the oil pumps being driven kind of off the crank, like the LSs, they slide over the crank. A lot of engines they do. So to have this kind of chain-driven, almost external oil pump is definitely a new venture for me. So start getting this stuff apart because we need to swap on our new RSX Type S oil pump. Dude, these things are freaking down there. So we're gonna go ahead and pull the plugs out. So that way, when we spin the engine over to top dead center, we're not fighting the compression. Iridiums, so these are probably the OE Johnnies. Wash so good. Sweet, yeah, all the plugs look good. Look exactly as they're supposed to. No weirdness anywhere. All right, with the plugs out, spinning the engine over should be a lot easier. Oh, okay. So one thing that's cool about working on a bunch of different motors is you kind of pick out stuff that the manufacturer did that makes life easier. Something cool that they did is they put these little holes here, and I mean, it's supposed to be a dowel, but an M6 bolt fits. So we put that one there. Now the cams are basically pinned at top dead center. We really don't need to do that for pulling the head off. It's handy. It'd be really good for when you're pulling the timing chain off because you're basically locking the cams in their position. Now we can start pulling the chain off. All right, chain's off. Now we can move down to the oil pump.
I borrow all this tool all the time. At least like this.
And so as you can see, we've got a separate chain here for our oil pump. We need to take the chain off, the guide off, and the whole massive oil pump assembly off. A kind of winging this, so. Okay, so that is sprung a little bit. Might have to pull the chain off with the pump. Not quite enough slack in there. The inside of engines is sharp. Yeah, so, oh my God, almost dropped it. Not that it would matter that much. So this is the stock K24 pump. And then this is the K20 Type S pump. Now, as you can see, there's a little bit of a size difference here. So this one has balance shafts, but this one is a lot smaller, which is crucial to work with our oil pan. And this one is better for revving higher. This one is your first limit to rev the engines high. We have a different pickup tube system than the stock one. So the stock one would be basically the exact same. We have this pickup tube. And then this guy, which is gonna bolt on something like that to the back of the pump and allow us to bolt the pickup tube to it. I'm bleeding all over stuff. This thing is pretty wild looking inside. You can see the balance shafts, see they're weighted on one side. Really elaborate setup. I'm curious the reasoning behind it. Like, why did they decide to do this? I'm sure they didn't do it for no reason. This has a smaller gear than this one, so it would be spinning faster. Is it like spinning faster for more volume at lower RPM and they needed this to counteract that? Is it noise or vibration thing within the engine? I'm really curious. I'll have to look that up. But anyway, we got a new one. Let's start getting our stuff set up on it. So we need to mark that out and cut that little webbing out right here. All right, well, we're close. We can get both dowels to line up, but it looks like what's hitting is this threaded boss right here. We grind it down just to the threads, but not lose the threads. Test fit reveals she'll go. It's kind of like a press fit with these dowels, so I don't want to push it all the way in until we've swapped everything over. So now we can swap the back cover and the strainer over. This is why you should read instructions. I need to trim another part on the top of the oil pump so it doesn't make contact with the pan. I'm gonna need to trim the windage trim. Glad I did that. Back to cutting. All right, got our gasket surface cleaned. We got new bolts from Honda. We are fancying it up, dude. Press fit. Might have to do the whole put it on with the chain thing. I don't know. Little Loctite since these are in the oil pan. All right, gonna try to test fit the pan. Just make sure everything here clears. Can't put the pan on yet because we need to have the timing cover on, which we still got to take the head off. So obviously we can't fully mount it on here, but we can at least see how it looks. Boom, clears like nothing. Sweet. Pan looks wild on there upside down, that is for sure. Getting there, boys. Yeah, that does not seem doable. All right, so I'm just gonna pull the pump off, try to get the chain on as we put it on, which I should have done in the first place because I had to do that to get the other one off. I just, you know. Oh, well, I mean, that was easy. Easy enough. All right, sweet, chain's on. We can start putting our guides and stuff on. All right, sweet. Oil pump assembly is on. We got our pickup tube, we got our chain, we got our guides, we got our tensioner. I need to move on to our windage tray, but first I've got to cut it. So we got to move this out of the way again so we don't spray sparks into it. I have a way better tool for this. I almost missed a very crucial... What, Sandy? I know I almost missed it. All right, I got it. I got it. Thank you for the reminder. So there is this plug here for the other oil pump, and it's an oil passage port. So basically we've got to get this little guy here, this little restrictor out, and there should hopefully be threads in there. And we have a threaded bolt and a crush washer to go here to plug that up. Otherwise we would dump all our oil pressure out of there back into the pan. So glad I didn't forget that. Right, Sans? I got the camera on you now. You can tell them about your new shirt. You want to tell them about your new shirt, Sans? Yeah. GarageBuiltCo.com, Sandy shirt. Along with many others. Well, thanks for the reminder, Sans. I almost forgot to tell them about the pre-order, so glad you came out here. This is literally the reason she was named Sandy. It's when she first showed up at my house, she rolled around in the dirt and got all this sand on her. And I was like, wow, she's Sandy. I'm gonna call her Sandy. And that's it. All right, Sans? Yeah. So yeah, anyway, we need to figure out how to get this thing out of here and then plug it. So I'm gonna start experimenting with some removal methods. Well, it was a bit of a struggle. Took several different screw configurations to finally get one to bite enough into that tiny little hole to pull it out, but that's what it looks like. And fortunately, it is threaded in there. So boom, we just throw this bolt in. We've got a crush washer. Tighten that down, we're good there. Now we can put the windage tray on. Oh, look at that. I was like, oh no, this bolt's not gonna fit. I don't know what I've turned into where I'm torquing things like a windage tray down, but I'm okay with it. All right, let's see if the pan goes back on. All right, sweet. Well, that's the job done on the pan. Obviously, again, we can't put it on right now because we need the timing cover to be on, but at least that's out of the way and sorted. We know that once we get the timing stuff done, the head back on, all we gotta do is toss the pan on. So definitely glad to have that out of the way. All right, so another thing we got for this engine is a 50-degree VTEC gear. So from what I understand, this should just allow for a larger range of adjustment via the VTEC. So I just want to look at it. Okay, so we should be able to just pull that bolt off, yank the old one off, toss this on. Oh, that was easy. Once we've got the chains back on and everything to where the motor will not want to spin as easily and the cam won't want to spin as easily, I'll torque this down to spec. But for now, that'll work. Sweet. Again, that was easier than I expected. I wasn't sure how it was going to come off. It was going to be like a multiple piece thing. Super simple. All right, so now that we've got that off, we can pull the rest of our stuff off. For timing chain guides, we can pull our cams out, our VTEC stuff out, and then pull the head off because we are going to be building the head a little bit. We're kind of doing a built head, more or less. There's one thing I've learned in all my time of wrenching on cars, and I still don't stick to it. Still break my own rule. Do not use an impact on Allens. It just doesn't work. It just eats them up. I still do it though, so I can't act like some smart guy. Holy shit. Got a new one of these. All right, the time has come to take our little dowel friends out. I saw that. Winging it kind of sucks sometimes, but the benefit is I feel like I learn a lot more if I wing it. There we go. That was good. Alright, well, we've got to use the 3/8 on this because it's the only 12-point socket I have, and these head bolts are 12-point. Oh, man. See if we can break the head off our flex head ratchet. Might have to get a 1/2-inch adapter. I just don't like using a 1/2 inch on the 3/8. Gee, please. Who would have thunk it? Head bolts being tight. No. Oh, it's the socket that's split. We got a bug in here. It's kind of funny. Rotating assembly looks good. Definitely a bit. There's more bugs. How did all these get in here? Must have flown in there and died before I freaking taped off the ports. All right, let's take a gander at the head here. Yeah, I mean, everything looks good. Definitely nothing seeming amiss. All right, we officially have all of our engine build parts. So I got a Pro Seal head gasket on Kyle from the Booster Boys recommendation. And then I hit up Real Street, super awesome because they stock all this stuff and they are local here in Florida. So they literally shipped this stuff out like 5 o'clock yesterday and it's here. Also, it worked out well talking to them because they know their stuff. Obviously, they race and they have records and all this stuff. Basically, they gave me some good input on like some things I wanted to do. They're like, you really don't necessarily need to do those, and some things I didn't even think to do that I should do. And also, Trevor from Motion Auto called me, gave me some info on like the issues he's had with his K series, pushing it to the limit. So I think we got a good mix of parts here. All right, so we've got ARP head studs, pretty standard stuff. Did ball out a little on the head stuff. So first off, and obviously, we have a valve spring kit. So we've got steel seats, titanium retainers, dual valve springs, keepers. So these are 105-pound springs. They are the brand both Gio and Kyle recommended, which it worked out great. As Kyle recommended them, it seemed like they weren't in stock anywhere. What do you know? Real Street had them in stock. So I was ordering that. Gio over there also recommended that I do valves. And I was kind of on the fence about it, but then I was talking to Trevor, and Trevor was telling me how one of the first failures he had was stretching and dropping a valve. So I was like, you know what? Maybe not such a bad idea to do valves. I just didn't know if I wanted to open that can of worms or not, but here we are. We're doing it, boys. So we got intake and exhaust valves. We got valve stem seals. The works. I was gonna do the springs myself. I always do the valve spring changes on my LS stuff myself, but since we're doing valves as well and the head really needs to be cleaned and all that stuff, I'm just gonna take it to the machine shop, have them do it, and then that way we'll have a fresh, pretty, brand new looking cylinder head. And I used to not think that was worth it, but I did it on a set of LS heads and they, after 2 years, they still look brand new. So I don't know, we're putting all these nice parts in it. I kind of want it all to be shiny. So we might as well take it to them and have them get it cleaned and fresh. And so anyway, moral of the story is we're pretty much done with the head for now, aside from taking it over to the machine shop. So I want to go ahead and get the block deck cleaned up a little bit, get the pistons cleaned up, and just kind of get this wrapped up and waiting in the wings. All right, I'll let that dribble out for a minute just to make sure all the gunk and brake cleans out of there. We'll wipe some oil on the cylinders, put a bag over it, and she's ready to sit until we get the head back. Alrighty, we've got everything wrapped up. We've got the head in a bag. We've got all our parts. So we're about to take this to the machine shop to get it done. They said about a week. So since we're gonna be waiting a week on that, I went ahead and wrapped everything else up That way I can start doing chassis stuff on the Cefiro, which is going to be a lot of cutting and grinding and welding, doing the angle and the rear arms and the bushings and all that stuff, and try to keep this stuff mostly protected. Obviously, you don't want very precise tolerance engine parts just out in the open while you're spraying sparks everywhere. So we got all that stuff wrapped up. It's time to take this to the machine shop, and we're picking up a surprise for the whole assembly. Well, our head is gone, and our turbo has been acquired. So, a friend of mine was selling this turbo off his car. He had it on a 1J, and it made boost too fast. He wanted something that realistically was just laggier because it came on so hard, it just blew the tires off. So anyway, he stepped up to a bigger turbo, and I bought this one. So should be like the perfect size for good mid-range on this motor. It is a EFR 7163, so it should be capable of like 450 to 500 on pump gas at like 18, 19 pounds, which is freaking more than enough for us, and should spool very quick. So got some other stuff. He already welded on this 90, which is perfect. That's what I was gonna have to do. Got a bell mouth. So these are really cool. It's got an integrated boost controller. It's got an integrated blow-off valve that instead of blowing off into atmosphere or blowing off into the intake pipe, it blows off right into the impeller wheel. You can see that opening right there. Now, I don't know a ton about these turbos, but from what I've gathered, they're pretty solid units. It's got a port for a speed sensor, so I got a speed sensor, so we'll be able to see if we're pushing the turbo too far. Just nifty stuff. So I ordered a V-band housing for it, V-band down pipe. So I've got that coming. We got to swap the housing over to that one. This is a twin scroll housing. So we'll have that to match our manifold, and we're going to go external gate, so we'll be taking this wastegate off. But yeah, so sweet, turbo acquired, head at the machine shop. Suspension parts should be here after the weekend. Moving right along, boys. We might just get this thing done for Drift Week after all. Keep your fingers crossed. Let's hope it all works out. So since we're kind of out of things to do at the moment, waiting on parts, I guess we'll go ahead and end it here. I'll see you guys for the next one. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Goodbye.